We are now recording, and we are exactly at 6:30, so I want to turn this over to Stephanie, and we shall begin. Thank you, Stephanie.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Stephanie Fawnin, and I'm a reporter with Tap Into Barnegat Ware Town, and I am tonight's moderator. I am going to add here that I love your little town. I've been up there quite a bit. As many people down here, I am from North Jersey originally. This is a forum for candidates running for Lambertville mayor. Tonight, we are joined by two candidates, Michael Mensch, am I correct? Did I say your name right, Michael? Mensch, okay, and Andrew Nowick. The election is on November 2nd. Tonight's Tap Into Candidates Forum is for voter information purposes alone, and there will be no endorsement made by Tap Into. The questions for this forum were put together from subject matter obtained from recent Lambertville news stories, suggested questions from residents, and from subject matter that is part of every election in municipalities across New Jersey. Additionally, questions were submitted by our co-sponsor for this forum, the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. Tap Into thanks the Chamber for their participation. The candidates have been informed and agreed to the forum guidelines. So that everyone else knows, there's 2 minutes for each candidate's opening statement, 90 seconds answer for each question, an option of a 30-second response, and then closing statements of 2 minutes. Questions shall be rotated from candidate to candidate. For timing, a green card will be shown when you have 30 seconds remaining and a red card when your time is up. I thank the candidates for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us this evening. And let us begin with the candidates' opening statements, which we're going to do in alphabetical order. We will start with opening statements with Mr. Mensch. And going forward, I'm going to call you by your first names, and you're welcome to call me Stephanie as well. Michael?
Terrific. Thanks, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. Hello, Andrew. First, I'd like to thank Tap Into for hosting this forum. Tap Into was the first news outlet to announce my candidacy. That was the day before the Democratic primary on June 7th. I am a Democrat. I decided to run independently to welcome all voices and work with all residents, regardless of party, to improve our city. This is the first time in many years that all Lambertville voters have a choice for mayor in the general election. Tonight's forum is a critical part of the democratic process. You can evaluate both candidates and compare our principles and our visions of success and our track records of service to Lambertville. I'm committed to putting people first and affordability. The tax increases of the last 3 years, 25 to 30%, have been unfair, unaffordable, and unacceptable. My pledge, if elected mayor, is a 0% increase in your municipal tax payment. You won't pay a single dollar more in city tax. Now, our taxes have been increasing, but our infrastructure and essential services have been deteriorating. As mayor, I will focus on the fundamentals like trash pickup, snow removal, the repair of hazardous streets and lots. I will uphold quality of life as a top municipal priority. A month ago, Lambertville was devastated by Hurricane Ida. My house was flooded for the second time in 10 years. Others are much less fortunate. Together, we can strengthen our disaster planning, warning, and communications. We can strengthen our emergency response systems and resources. We will prioritize flood mitigation. There's hope, but there's a lot of work. We will stay strong. Until the general election, I'm going to keep trying to prove that I am your choice and your voice. Thank you.
Andrew, we're ready for your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Joey, and thank you, Stephanie, for moderating. It's much appreciated. First, I would like to acknowledge the events over the last month. The way the residents of our city came together in response to the recent flooding has not only deepened my love for the community, but has also strengthened my commitment to serve as the mayor of Lambertville. I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the first responders, community volunteers, and city employees who served their neighbors during these very difficult weeks. I would also like to say to those residents hardest hit by the storm, that if elected, I will work tirelessly to help you and your families recover. Over the next several years, we will face unprecedented challenges that will require strong, steady, and constant leadership. After being battered by Ida, it will take many months to fully recover, during which time we must also create a comprehensive flood mitigation and climate plan to protect our beloved Riverside community. And yet, even before the pandemic and the latest flooding, the quality of life in Lambertville has begun to slip. Delivery of our basic city services has become inconsistent. Our historic buildings are in want of restoration. We can and we must do better. Affordability continues to be a pressing issue for the community. As mayor, one of my top priorities will be keeping our municipal taxes in check by bringing in new sources of revenue and controlling our discretionary spending. I'm committed to implementing a comprehensive affordable housing plan, which is a critical need in our city, particularly in the wake of Ida's devastating impact on our lower income families. I will always put people over politics. I will bring leadership that starts with community dialogue and consensus building, leadership based on understanding people's views even when we don't agree. And once I've heard from our residents on an issue, I won't shy away from making the tough decisions. While the challenges facing our city are daunting, I'm confident that if we meet them together, we can build a brighter future for Lambertville. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Our first question you both touched upon already. So when either of you is mayor in January, recovery efforts are going to be a main thing from the remnants of Hurricane Ida. They're still going to be necessary. What efforts would you prioritize is the first part of the question. And the second part is there anything being done now that you would change?
And you broke up a little. It's my turn, correct, Stephanie?
It is. You
Yeah,
want me
okay,
to?
so thank you. So we need to get a solid plan in place. We need to strengthen our Office of Emergency Management. Like most municipalities, it's not a paid position. The county has a paid position. We need to coordinate with the robust county Office of Emergency Management. We need to integrate and coordinate with their services. Communication to residents can be strengthened and coordinated right now. I'm getting asked, I'm just a candidate. I'm not a member of the administration. Folks are asking me for rebuilding guidance, for legal advice, for social services help, for senior services help. I connect them with the resources as best I can. For example, I talk regularly with Brad Meyer, who's the chief of staff of Hunterdon County and the mayor of Frenchtown, to get ideas and insights and information. But I'm a private citizen currently. I don't know if I want to comment on what could be done differently, because I don't have all that information about what's being done. But I will say that we can start working on flood mitigation right now, and I'm guessing that we are. The USDA, so that's the Department of Agriculture, has a conservation service grant. Frenchtown is taking advantage of it. They're remediating their creek, and they weren't hit hard like we were. And they're doing stream bed stabilization and debris removal. So that's something that you could look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Andrew.
Well, certainly the recovery from Hurricane Ida is one of the most important issues facing the incoming mayor. And I think that a smooth transition with the current administration is going to be critical to that. So I look forward, hopefully, to working with Mayor Fall and her administration in that transition. I think there are two focus areas when we talk about the recovery. Our initial one, and I think that Mike hit it on the head, is that we really need to be concerned with our residents, getting them back into their homes and getting the information that they need to make them, to allow them to make the decisions they need to make their lives going forward. The second part of that is really to look at our infrastructure and repairing the damage here in the city. I think it's really important to stress that it's going to be a slow recovery. It's probably going to take 12 months to a year for us to actually get into our creeks and rebuild our infrastructure back to kind of pre-Ida levels. And that the economic disturbance of this event is going to continue in our community for probably 4 or 5 years. It's going to be a long recovery. But in the meantime, we will continue to work with the residents in terms of getting them all the information that they need. I too, like Mike, have received many calls from residents and have done my best to find out information for them without weighing into policy, because that's not appropriate for me at the moment, but really to be as much support as a neighbor as I can. So, I do think there are a few things I would love to see us do now. I would love to see us clean up our parks before winter. I would love to see potentially some creek cleanup, and I'd love to see the DPW work to continue to make repairs to our roads.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, our next question. What should new construction in flood-prone areas look like post-Ida? What new rules, requirements will residents need to consider during renovations? How will each of you ensure that the city is responsive to the likely volume of building requests, questions from residents? Mike?
Now, this question goes to Andrew.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to the construction office, Ken and Crystal and all of the inspectors who have just worked tirelessly over the last few weeks to get out there into the field, so to speak, and to work with our residents to get them initial assessments, to get them get their electric back on, to get their gas back on, to get whatever it is that they need in terms of getting back into their houses as quickly as possible, or making decisions about damage as quickly as possible. So I think a lot of credit goes to the construction office.
Thank
and we'll
you.
talk. I'm sorry. Okay.
I
I'm sorry.
apologize. You were fading in and out. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Again, thanks to the construction office. I'll touch base upon their needs in a minute. I think that, the city has recently passed some stringent requirements to build 2 feet above the base flood elevation. And I think that that was a wise decision. It happened just before the flood. So that's something that we're going to be working with residents to in the future to make sure that their buildings can accommodate that new standard. I think the city is also going to require that those residences in repetitive loss structures are going to have to elevate their mechanicals a couple of feet above the base flood elevation as well. So we are working in with some new construction guidelines and new construction rules, and certainly I think that I would also say that the city is working with Governor Murphy's administration to help provide grants for households who may have gaps in their insurance coverage to elevate their mechanicals. There's going to be a lot of information coming from the construction office. I talked to Crystal just the other day, and she's feeling at the moment as though they've been incredibly supported, that the community's been very patient and giving, and it's incumbent upon the current mayor and the incoming mayor to make sure that that continues, that level of support.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Michael?
So I would just say that, compliance is necessary. We do have ordinances in place. Sustainability is a larger issue that needs to, I think the construction office would benefit, as would the planning office, from a working group of environmentalists and some more diverse experts who can provide expert assistance and help in creating maybe new ordinances. Right now, it's like folks are there's an urgency to get information, and they want to get their HVAC up. What do I do? Is it 2 feet, et cetera? But there's a long-term issue here too. And so I think that we need to be thinking that way, and we be thinking about sustainability. So I would encourage that there'd be a working group of residents with varied expertise to help the construction office in terms of handling the higher volume of inquiries. They are stretched. I know that. And that, by the way, the residents who call me, they don't complain. They understand that too, that it's just two folks right now. I don't know what the answer is. It would not be to staff up. That's really never our answer in Lambertville. It would be more either contract or volunteers to handle a higher volume of requests.
Thank
so
you.
can I just get a short reply to that?
Sure, Andrew.
So yeah, I think that I will say that I think that Mike is right that we could use some more support from the community and the experts in terms of looking at this. I mean, I think that that's going to be really important. And I would just give a shout out also to the FEMA inspectors who have been helping out in the construction office a couple days a week. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next question. What is the near-term and long-term plan for the Clauson property? Fisherman's Mark is currently being housed there. Will this continue through 2022 and beyond? What are the most likely uses for the rest of the property? Michael?
So we need a cost benefit analysis for the market, for the contemporary house, and for the historic house. And by that, I mean, we need to assess whether we own and occupy each one, or do we rent it, or do we sell it? And what does that look like? We need that rigorous analysis before we have a site plan. We're not ready for a site plan. So I think there was one that was kind of promised by the end of the year. It's not a term paper that needs to be handed in. We have the debt, we're going to have it for 40 years. We're going to be living with this very complex property for a long time. So we need to rigorously and together understand what it looks like to either own, lease, or sell these components of the property. I don't know about what Fisherman's Mark stays there or not. It goes to what do we want to do long term with that market space? I know plenty of folks want to see a market back in there instead of Fisherman's Mark. Those are my thoughts. I will add, by the way, I reached out to an expert in historic properties named Donna Harris from Heritage Consulting in Philadelphia. Had a Zoom with her and Councilman Stegman some months ago. She threw out some great ideas, like, for example, you should rent the old house. You make a few bucks, and by the way, it's good to keep an old house for its bones occupied. You don't want to leave it unoccupied. It's been unoccupied for a couple of years. So there's some free advice that we could make a few bucks and while we're figuring out what we want to do with the old historic property.
Thank you, Michael. Andrew? I think you're muted, Andrew.
Sorry about that. I'm incredibly excited about the Clauson property. Given how much we've just gone through and the difficulties, some of the difficulties over the last few years in terms of COVID and everything else, I think that the purchase of the Clauson property by the city was really a remarkable decision, and I'm very excited by it. I think it's going to be fantastic in the long run and in the near term. Some of my thoughts about it, I've been working on the community advisory team for the last couple of years, and we've really sought a lot of community input on the property. So I think I have a good base of knowledge in terms of what's been expressed in terms of the community. I do think that in the near term, this property should be self-sustaining to the best of its ability, whether that's renting, the Clauson family house or the historic Holcomb house. I also think that at some point we're going to need to have a conversation with Fisherman's Mark to see whether that's sustainable, given that there's no heat in that building, in the market building. I have concerns about that over the course of the winter. But I think that I would love to see a little bit of revenue generation. Long term, I'd love to see solar on the buildings. I'd love to see green infrastructure, a farm market, potentially, barn dances, all kinds of different things. So I think it's a vibrant addition to our community, and I look forward to all the fun it's going to be to develop it.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next question. What is our environmental state in regards to water quality, creek management, and drainage? For example, The hills of Lambertville suffered from significant erosion due to Ida. Combine this with invasive emerald ash or taking out ash trees, and it could present a large runoff problem in the future. How would you address
Well, assessing,
this?
this is kind of a short-term and a long-term question. We need to divide this into two. So obviously we know in the short term, our creeks have suffered incredible damage after Hurricane Ida, through Hurricane Ida. One of the issues with the damage in the creeks currently is that we are still wrestling with jurisdiction. So are these creeks, do they fall under the authority of the state and the DEP, or are they, do they belong to Lambertville? I know the current administration is kind of trying to work through some of these issues. I know, for example, that Rock Creek Woods is doing some creek restoration there. And I did do a little research for them to see if we could find some kind of grant money or whatever. And because of the jurisdiction issues with it, it looks like that's not going to be possible. So these very complicated jurisdiction issues are going to drive the process of creek restoration, and that will happen, but we need to sort of figure out who's going to be paying for it. Secondly, in terms of some of the larger issues, the hill behind the school, that's been an issue for some years now. Obviously, we know that there's some storm drain issues up at the top of that. We know that emerald ash borer has killed a lot of the trees. The city currently has, I think, a grant for $2.1 million out, grant request out to sort of look at that and take down the dead trees and create some stabilization there by planting native plants and removing the invasive species. So there's a lot that we're doing, I think, in the short term and hopefully in the long term to remediate some of these problems.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Michael?
So it's a tough one. You know, our topography is working against us. The surrounding highlands runoff occurs and it wants to go to Lambertville. And we just keep experiencing that. Police Director Brown told me a very alarming fact, and that was that the dam, the reservoir that managed by Suez was 1 foot from breaching. If it had breached, that would have been catastrophic, meaning loss of life and damage, ruin to some neighborhoods. 1 foot. So yeah, I walked away just like with the chills. And there's no short-term answer. We need a sustainability plan. It's several levels. What we experienced in my neighborhood on Ferry Street was not just creek backup from Swan Creek, but also runoff that just came off the hills. And you know, lots of other folks experienced that as well. We need a sustainability plan. We need environmentalists and engineers working on it. It's going to take a while. There isn't a simple answer, but we need to work on it if we're going to survive and thrive.
Thank you so much.
And
Our next,
may I follow up?
sure, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, we need to build on this work that's already started. You know, I don't know if we have a question about mitigation efforts coming down the pike, but it's a really important one. So I hope that we do, and if we don't, I'm going to speak about it at some point. When we talk about the hills, we know we have these steep slopes, and one of the things that I think is that we need to consider is our stormwater management, and I would be interested in having the city take a look at a stormwater utility, which is a fairly new option for municipalities in New Jersey. So we can talk more about that later, but I think that's definitely something that we should consider in terms of mitigation efforts of our stormwater and floodwater.
Okay, well, what an appropriate time for our next question. What would you do to get a flood mitigation committee up and running again? This was not at the forefront of the current administration, and there seems to have been a lack of meetings. How will you handle addressing remediation that is needed in Creeks, Swan, and Alexa Hawkins?
I think this is for me, or who is this for?
Yes.
Not, oh, it is? Oh.
I believe I believe this question goes to Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael?
So So we can't just throw the current administration under the bus here. It's human nature. Lambertville has had flood mitigation committees over the years. They come and go because it's human nature. We know now, sitting here today, only a month after a flood, how could we possibly let these mitigation efforts go to the back burner? But they might, not if we can help it though. I mean, the next administration, whether it's mine or Andrew's, it will take, flood mitigation will be on the front burner all 3 years, there's no doubt about it. Good news is there are folks in Lambertville who reached out to me who have experience, had participated in past flood mitigation committees. They want to help. For some reason, they're either not involved or currently they want to get back involved. And I'm not an either or guy. It's I'm an and guy. So we need to have all the wise heads in the room working together and figuring out how we're going to go forward. It's that simple in terms of getting this committee back and in business.
Thank you, Michael. Andrew.
Thank you. So when I started the campaign, this was a question I knew would come up when I was going door to door, especially in the Swan Creek watershed. And it's been very surprising to me that in a river town that we do not have a standing mitigation planning committee. And I talked to some residents who've been in the watershed for a long time, and people go back as far as the 2007 report without really having referenced any kind of standing committee. One of the first things I will do if I'm elected is to create a mitigation planning committee that will have several functions. First of all, it will have an education element to it. I think that living in a flood zone, living in a flood-prone community, we need to have constant education efforts available to people who are moving in or to policy changes. It came as a big surprise to a lot of people in my neck of the woods that the fire department was no longer pumping out cellars. So a mitigation committee must have an educational function or an educational arm, and it must be willing to go out and do the work that we need to do in terms of planning what kind of, whether it's the viability of the Swan Creek floodgate project, which we've heard talked about for years and never had a yay or a nay one way or the other, or whether it's, the Army Corps of Engineer project that has been floated on Alexaquin Creek. Maybe a committee would help to create a post-disaster plan, which we don't have. Maybe they would be willing to kind of look at some of the other issues around mitigation. I think we definitely need to be very vibrant and very strong, and we need to have a standing committee at all times.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew. What can the city do to help the business community rebuild after both COVID and Ida? What can the administration do to provide for the businesses, enabling their reopenings to go smoother and assist them in getting grants and other funding to reopen?
That question goes to Andrew.
Right. Well, it's obviously critical that we have a healthy, vibrant business community, whether it's in the central business district or or in the north end of town where I live. I think that we need to work very hard to make it easier for tourists to visit and shop, and some of that is very basic support to the business community in terms of really, and I heard this many times when I was out in the business community, not having restrooms available, parking being an issue, trash being an issue. We need to make sure that all of these basic things are handled, while we also at the city governing level also make it easier to do business, to streamline the business permitting process, to make a new business should not have to go through the planning board and the zoning board. I mean, we just make it endlessly complicated. And I know we're working to correct that, but I think that we need to make it a priority. We also need to make sure that we have links on our websites and frequently asked questions. We need to make it as easy as possible for businesses to come here and to stay here. Also, I think that it's really important that we're encouraging our businesses by how we move through the city. I think that whether we have a farm market on Sunday mornings that might encourage people to come in early, whether it's Shad Fest, whether it's New Hope Celebrates History, we need to be bringing people into our community. Porch Fest is a perfect example. Two people, Sean Ellis and Ryan Spreen, organized Porch Fest. Hundreds of people came in and we're in the business district. We need to be thinking like this all the time. How do we get people to come in I will have a standing weekly meeting for the business community. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Michael.
So, the goal is to be more competitive for small businesses. We don't have corporate chains. We like artisans, we like galleries, we like restaurants. So we want our coding to be flexible and responsive, and we want our staff to be responsive. Again, I talk regularly with Brad Meyer, mayor of Frenchtown. Frenchtown has a lot of mojo these days. I think everyone recognizes that they're doing things right. Brad told me just yesterday, they have 4 new businesses, and he said that like it was a big deal. And you know what? It is a big deal. It's a big deal for Frenchtown. It'll be a big deal for Lambertville. So that's like priority number 1 for him. And I would make it the same way. You need to have a working group. We need to coordinate zoning, planning, and the business community and the first responders for special events like Shad Fest or Porch Fest, so that we can pre-approve for the calendar year, for example. Here come the special events. So police, fire, first responders are ready, and we can facilitate and expedite and not get in the way and encourage and support our small businesses.
Thank you very much, Michael.
If I could have, may I have my follow-up, please?
Sure, Andrew. Go
Thanks.
ahead.
I just want to build on what Mike said, because I think it's really important. You know, if you go to the Art Yard website, the landing page just makes you want to go to Frenchtown, right? And I want to see that kind of enthusiasm and excitement here, whether it's, you know, the Strand Theater, which will hopefully open soon, or whether it's how we look at our downtown area in terms of parklets or expanded outdoor dining. You know, COVID was really hard, but we learned some very valuable lessons about how we can envision our central business district in another way. So I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm out there for that, and I'll continue to support it at every turn.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Our next question. The New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission just adopted initial rules, but will miss their own deadline for business licenses. How will you support local entrepreneurs interested in participating in this new market? What is your vision for integration of these businesses eventually into the city's footprint?
I believe that goes to Michael.
Yeah, so first I'd like to say I admired the way that issue has been stewarded. So Councilman Sanders kind of was the captain of this issue, and he was informed by local residents who did the research, provided draft ordinances and helped, and that he very adeptly and congenially guided everyone through this, at times contentious. You know, everyone doesn't agree. Everybody doesn't want cannabis, or they don't always agree on, you know, in what form. So I like the way that worked. So hats off to Councilman Sanders. By the way, I would see many issues working that way. I like seeing the council members serve as captains and leading things forward. I think that's important. I think that's a recipe for success, not the mayor leading everything. In terms of the footprint of cannabis specifically, I mean, there are corporate chains in cannabis, and I think that I believe that we've approved one. I was disappointed in that. I think there are reasons for it, so I'm not too strong on it, but we like local businesses. We want micro businesses. So that's what I'd want to see. One of my friends who's an expert on the issue talked about a delivery service. So cannabis will be delivered here, whether we like it or not. There will be consumers, and I thought that was a good idea, that we should greenlight a delivery service. But otherwise, I'm supportive of the issue, and I'm supportive of the revenue it will generate.
Thank you so much, Michael. Andrew?
Yeah, I would agree with what much of Michael said. I wholeheartedly support bringing retail cannabis to Lambertville. I think it is, you know, it enjoyed broad support in the referendum. 82% of our voters supported that. And for me, it is it just has enormous potential in terms of, sort of our cultural values, but also the impact of our revenue. I mean, this has really the potential to be a significant source of ongoing revenue for the city, and I'm excited by it. And just in terms of how it would roll out, I do credit absolutely Councilman Stegman and Sanders. They did a brilliant job. I went to all the hearings. I participated via letter to let them know my thoughts on the matter. And I thought they did it with great diligence and great care and sensitivity to kind of the sort of market we want. I mean, we're a small town. We don't have space to grow it and move it and, in big numbers. So the retail operations are really important. We do have a preference for 2 micro businesses, which I think is very important to support our local people and small businesses of 10 people or less. There are a number of regulations about that. And we do have, they very carefully worked in conditions. There are, I think, 16 conditions for the retail operations, which include everything from signage to distance from schools to opening hours, camera surveillance, all of that. So it was done really well, and I'm very much looking forward to welcoming the cannabis business into the city.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Our next question, a favorite one, I'm sure. What should be done to improve parking availability in the city?
Is that me?
I think so, right, Jeff?
Yes, it goes to Andrew.
Yeah, could you ask the question again? You faded out for a minute.
What should be done to improve parking availability in the city?
I think we should have 1,000 more parking spaces. No, I'm just kidding. You good with that? Okay, good. And they should be free. I'm going to make them all free, by the way. No, parking is, no matter where you go, and I'm sure Mike has heard this time and time again out on the campaign trail. Whether you're a resident or a business, parking comes up. Whether you're looking for a place to charge your electric vehicle, or whether you are a concerned business owner worried about parking tickets and people who are worried about meter time. I think there are 2 issues to address here: are resident parking. I think that we may need to think with the Planning and Zoning Board to kind of think about new development. That new developments have sufficient parking. We do have those in place for residential developments. I think it would be nice if we could actually toe the line on that a little bit. Problem is with in the business district that there's only a finite number of spaces, so it's definitely a challenge. And I think that it's important to recognize that in terms of parking, it's a huge part of our budget. The revenue we generate from our parking meters is substantial. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it's well over $200,000 a year. So we need to keep that going. Are there more efficient ways that we could generate that revenue? I've heard some people say that the kind of the meters that they have in New Hope and take away the lines would actually give you more space, and that these that these online meter systems actually generate more revenue over traditional parking meters. So these are things that we want to look at. I would also just say lastly, I think it's really worthwhile to look at the potential for private and public parking partnerships that may generate revenue and create additional spaces, even if it's only on weekends.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Michael, please.
Yeah, so I mean, if there were an easy solution, it would have been done, right? I mean, not just here, but everywhere. Parking it's difficult, but it's a quality of life, issue, which is important to me. So it impacts everyday life. I would want to spend a lot of time on it consistently, knowing that there isn't one solution. We're not going to build a giant parking garage like New Hope is anytime soon, if ever. What I think all of us wonder is, for those of us who were impacted with the flood, we were allowed to park in the week or 2 afterwards at the River Horse, which has been vacant for roughly 8 years. It has a very large parking lot. We were allowed to park there, but otherwise the parking lot's vacant. Why is that? I don't understand that. Like, there's a space could be used. We were also allowed to park at the back of the Riverwalk parking lot, which has roughly 30 parking spaces in the rear, private property. I understand that, so is River Horse. But the 30 spaces in the back of River Horse, we were allowed to park there. They're always vacant. Why were we allowed to park there then during a disaster time, but we're not always? I raise this simply in the spirit of exploration. Folks have said, how about a sticker system for residents, I'd say let's try it. I'd be up for anything that could possibly alleviate parking, creative or otherwise.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm sorry, Stephanie, can I just have my quick
Sure,
response?
Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry. I got to take every second that I can get. And I would encourage Mike to do the same. I would just point out that the city added 55 parking spaces in the last 3 years on Route 29 with the calming project that was very a significant improvement in the lives of everybody who lives along that road. But I do think that you're right. I think especially in terms of disaster planning, post-disaster planning, it would be really great to have designated areas where people could park their cars. I mean, I know that we sort of did this kind of on the fly after the storm, but it would be great to identify them in advance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next question. What are your thoughts on regionalization and working with other partners, neighboring municipalities, the Hunterdon County Chamber, and other prominent stakeholders?
Goes to Michael.
So I'm a huge proponent of working with the county. I have a good working relationship. I'm managing a historic preservation project, the restoration of the old jail, and that's through a county grant. It's been going on for 3 years. So 3 years ago, I drove up to Route 12, had the meeting, talked with Bill Millett and the administrator of that particular, the preservation grants. And ever since then, I've liked talking with other folks at the county, and you discover the array of social services and environmental remediation services that they offer free to municipalities, many of which Lambertville either doesn't apply for or very seldom does. And I don't know why. Maybe it's a geography thing. We're way down here, at the bottom, or it's a political thing. We're different from the rest of the Red County. I don't care about that. I want the services. I have a very good relationship with county leadership. They want to provide the services. They're obligated to give them to us anyway, but they still want to. They're not going to turn us down. If you drive around the northern part of the county, you may see a crew doing trash pickup, a county crew. You've never seen that in Lambertville. How does that work? We have to apply. That goes through to social services. And of course, in terms of other municipalities, shared services, like that's the magic phrase, isn't it, these days? I have talked about that as well with Brad, Mayor of Frenchtown, and I would look forward to pursuing that aggressively in a number of avenues. It makes a lot of economic sense for us and for them.
Thank you, Michael. Andrew?
Could you repeat the question? I thought this was about business collaboration.
Your thoughts on regionalization and working with other partners, neighboring municipalities, the Hunterdon County Chamber, and other prominent stakeholders.
Okay, so the Chamber of Commerce, the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So, for me, this is this would be a very important relationship to continue and to pursue. I would welcome ways to collaborate with the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. I think that we could have this wonderful cross-pollination of ideas and sharing of resources. Hunterdon County is such a destination, and all of our towns are destinations in and of themselves. And I'd really love to see our business community take advantage of the work that the Chamber of Commerce has done, the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, which is an incredible resource. It has all kinds of information on it. So I would love to see that happen. And just to throw something else out there on this slightly different topic, in terms of our relationship with the county in general, which Mike was speaking about, I would just say that the county's been fantastic in this. After Ida, they hauled away 9,000 cubic cubic yards, of debris, and spent $170,000 on that, and then another $60,000 on kind of our hazardous waste removal. So our relationship with the county, I think, is pretty good. And I'm pleased to always be working with them, whether it's in a municipal way or through a business collaboration. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next question is about the police station. What is your position on selling the Lambertville Police Station? Especially after the recent flood, it confirms that the current location makes sense. A, it did not flood. B, it provides access to the highway. C, it has close proximity to fire and rescue centers. Since affordable housing is being proposed on the police site, do you think the city should put a hold on the contract with the developer?
That's me, right?
Yes, Andrew.
Yeah. So no is the answer to the last question. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a second. I think that this, for me, when I look at Mike's website and kind of hear what he said about this, this is probably the most fundamental difference between our two campaigns. I want to be careful and speak to this with all the time that I need. I may end up coming back to it because I think it really highlights a key difference between our approaches. And Mike can certainly correct me if I'm misinterpreting things. When we think about the police redevelopment tract, for me, I've got 3 or 4 things that are right off the top. For me, this is all about housing. This is about affordable housing. And we all know that housing is in short supply, in particular at the moment, that we've had so much suffering and so much difficulty. So I think that if we're going to be true to our democratic principles, we should be providing affordable housing. And we have a mandate to it as well. I would say, secondly, that we have a court settlement with the Fair Share Housing Settlement. This has been approved. This is, this does not ask you if you like it or not. It says this is the settlement agreement. For me, it's also about the process and faith in the process. I think for me I need to wait until the city council has released all the information about this project. What their details are with Cali and what what the negotiation is in terms of the new police station. I'll come back to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, so I thought it was a cockamamie idea to build the housing at the police station in the first place. Never understood it, still don't. There is the purported benefit is to fulfill the need for the 5 affordable units. We need to stop absolutely the current proposed sale. We need to find an alternative mechanism to fulfill the need for those 5 units. In terms of affordable housing, we look at Village South and other areas in Lambertville, and that's just a different kettle of fish. Right now, that site is all about 5 units. It's checking a box, and it's checking the wrong box, and it's opening up millions in expenses to relocate a police station to an undetermined location with risks galore that we don't understand. So 100% opposed, want to stop it. I hope it gets stopped. And I just can't say that strongly enough.
Andrew?
Yeah, I find it amazing that that Mike can't even wait until the last of the information is in to kill the deal. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know whether whether they've identified a home for the police or whether the contract negotiations for Callian are continuing in good faith. But I'm being very cautious and saying that I will not make a decision or take a point of view on this project until I know all the facts. Checking a box, that's checking a box for me. Seeing the project too, seeing all the facts come out in the end, and checking a box. This is more than checking a box. This is about people, and I might add that stopping this is going to incur enormous legal costs. You talk about having a 0% tax increase in your first year. Well, going back to Judge Miller and saying, we've changed our mind. We don't really think this is a good idea. Whatever. That's gonna incur a great deal of legal cost. And I think it's also about money, right? I mean, if we can have $1 million for the police site, and potentially, let's say that they're able to find a place for the police. If we get $1 million for the sale, we can use that money in the next few years to leverage all of the money that we're going to have to pay out to shell out for Ida repair damage.
Yeah, just too many contingencies, too much risk.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to move on to the next question. What would you prioritize in your first budget? And on the in the same vein, what would you seek to cut back on?
So again, I'll start with the 0%. The reason you say 0% tax increase, first of all, New Hope's done it 6 years in a row. It's not a happy accident that they achieved that. It's their goal. It's their way of operating. It should be our goal and our way of operating. You don't stumble into 0% tax increase. You have to state this is what we're working toward. When you have a number by which you measure success. In sales, you would have a quota. If you're in operations, you have a throughput number or a ratio. You have a number, you know it, your manager knows it, your manager's manager knows it. In this case, the staff knows it, the council knows it, the mayor knows it, and the public knows it. We want 0%. So that gives you a clear lens. And when you go through the budget, you start to say, we're paying the city attorney a part-time position, $96K this year, gave him a $3,000 raise. 3 years ago, we paid $45K for that position. What happened? We got the F. Lee Bailey of city attorneys. We don't need the F. Lee Bailey of city attorneys. So a clear lens says that these discretionary services where we're paying a premium need to be cut on a first pass. And we look through that before, we don't need to cut essential services. There's plenty of fat to cut in the current budget.
Andrew?
Yes, budget priorities. Well, certainly I'm committed to controlling discretionary spending and keeping the municipal taxes in check. I think, honestly, that Mike takes a rather simplistic view of the intricacies of municipal budgeting. And I'm no genius, but I know that there are incredible variety, there are lots of things happen every year. Parking revenues are down, somebody sues the city, legal costs go up. There's a lot of reasons why we have these variances in our budget. It's not just a question of staff salaries and fixed costs and all of that stuff. So I think it's important to be to understand what's coming your way in real time and the possibilities. The economic impact of Storm Ida is going to be very, very serious for the city. We are going to be paying 25% of all the FEMA-related grants that we incur. We have 26 identified projects at the moment, hopefully coming down the FEMA pipeline. We're going to be responsible for 25% of that. So that's one thing. My own personal priorities in terms of spending, the first thing that I will do if I'm elected is I will ensure access for all residents with a Zoom meeting function for city council meetings and hopefully all city meetings. That is a keystone of what I run on community involvement and community engagement and community access. That'll cost about $6,000. I would also like to spend a little bit of money improving city services, and I can talk about that later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Can I follow up?
Yes, Michael, please do.
So I affirm the simplicity. I work in the tech world, and we work with large corporations. And guess what? When the word comes down from the C-suite, it's a simple number. This is it, and everybody jumps and works accordingly. And that's why you have to march to a clear drum, to a clear beat, and to a simple goal. And that's how the staff and the council work effectively.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, our last question. How can the city better utilize and support the Public Works Department while making sure service is consistent?
I believe that goes to Andrew.
Thank you. Well, certainly I think improving the quality and consistency of our city services is uppermost in mind, and it will be a top priority for me. I often think of my husband as being my best friend, but I actually think Lester is going to be my new best friend. I'm going to be working with Lester all the time. And as a full-time mayor, I'll be there on site during the day, and I will be working with the Department of Public Works in real time. I will set clear expectations. I'll be constantly checking in. I think it's really important for us to interface more effectively with Parks and Rec to create a list of jobs that they actually do, because right now it's not there. I think it's just, I'll be there constantly to support them. And I pledge, this is where you'll hear it first, I pledge that I will work on the trash truck at least twice a year. And I'm going to take care of all the grass and the grounds at City Hall to support Leicester. I think it's really important to be in the game and to be a part of the game and to be super, super supportive. And I'll be there to do that for the Public Works Department.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Michael?
Andrew, when you're working on that truck, I will hand you my trash. So I take a level up. So the Public Works, it's a skeleton crew in the mayor. I don't know if she used that exact phrase, but she's saying like, look, there's not a lot of folks. Some are part-time. So that's a given, right? I mean, you can't argue with that. The problem is the repair, the remediation, the beautification type projects that they could be working on, they can't get to. That's a priority thing. So a level up is, for example, the LPS parking lot. We're in the second school year of it looking like an embarrassing hazard. If we value having our school in Lambertville, which I think most of us do, as a city, you demonstrate that value by remediating the godforsaken lunar landscape that our faculty and parents have to park in every day, going on more than a year. And so laying fine gravel of a fine project for Public Works for anybody that would improve everybody's quality of life should be done. So how would I help is it's the prioritization. And by the way, I have plenty of folks who have experience in Lambertville management who want to get in and get there, roll up their sleeves and help Public Works do even better than they're doing right now.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for participating today. I've learned a lot myself about your community, and I look forward to being there again. And I'm going to turn the end of the forum over to Joey.
We do have closing statements to get to. The first closing statement goes to Michael.
So, okay, well, thanks, folks, again. So running independently is tough. Running independently and getting flooded is tougher. Life's tough. Leadership's tough. You are prepared. I've been flooded before. I'm dealing with it. Again, there are folks, I've heard heartbreaking stories of heart attacks, boat rescues, in the northern part of town, just terrible. But I'm still at it, strong, campaigning strong. I'm out door to door, hailing the issues. People are calling me, asking for help. I'm connecting them. And I say that just so you know that as a leader, what do you want? You want resilience, but you also, there's got to be a plan. There's got to be a method to the madness. And in a small town, I think we can fall into kind of ad hoc, haphazard kind of responses. We don't have the luxury of that in the wake of Hurricane Ida. So we need to have plans. We need to be tough, and we need to be resilient. Most of us are. And lastly, I would say, in terms of running independently, a lot of folks say, boy, I just don't get it. That's unconventional. Well, guess what? Half the folks on this call are unconventional. Lambertville is unconventional. I'm like you. That's why I did it, even though I'm a Democrat. Thank you very much. And I'll look forward to talking with you out there on the streets soon, I hope.
Thank you, Michael. Andrew?
Well, once again, thank you, everyone. And in particular, Michael, I appreciate the conversation. I've said since March, this is one conversation at a time, and I've enjoyed this one. So thank you to you. I think over the next 3 years, the decisions we make and the actions we take as a community are going to define us for decades to come. And given the scope and urgency of this work, I think the city can't afford another part-time mayor trying to balance the demands of a day job with the significant needs of our city. I'm going to be the full-time mayor, and not only will be available 24/7 in times of a crisis, but I'll be in City Hall at least 40 hours a week, working shoulder to shoulder with our professionals to plan for the future while we oversee the day-to-day operations. Since declaring my candidacy 6 months ago, I've been solely focused on preparing to be mayor so I can hit the ground running on January 1st. I've had hundreds of conversations with residents, including many who didn't vote for me. I've attended all the budget hearings to gain an in-depth knowledge of our city and our department level budgets. I've built relationships with those residents who serve on our boards and commissions by attending many meetings and engaging at every turn. I've met several times with Mayor Fall and former Mayor Del Vecchio to better understand the job and discuss the challenges facing our city. I'm thankful for their support. And while their experience and advice is invaluable, rest assured I decide my own policy positions. This job is about people, whether it's on their worst day or their best day or somewhere in between. I'm profoundly optimistic about the future of our city. It's an amazing place full of good people. I ask for your vote and I'm eager to get started. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you both very much.
Well, I want to, I am Joey Novick. I am the publisher of Tap Into Flemington Raritan. I first want to thank Stephanie for moderating this candidate forum. I appreciate her time very, very much. I also want to thank Michael and Andrew for participating in the forum and providing an excellent and very complete background of what the challenges and just horrific difficulties that Lambertville has gone through over the past month or so following the storm of Ida. In Flemington, my own town, we experienced a great deal of difficulty. In my home, we were particularly lucky, but the rest of the county has looked to Lambertville for so many years in terms of your quality, your leadership, your passion for your community. And I have thoroughly enjoyed walking your streets, looking at your river, and coming to Shad Festival, which I hope that I can do again in person at some point in the future. So all of those of you who are watching this, just a couple of announcements. Election Day is November 2nd. If you have not registered to vote yet, you can still have time to register to vote. I believe the last day you can register is, I believe, October 18th. I could be wrong about that, but please check your the website of the election, the Board of Elections. This will be up on the Tap Into website within the next 24 hours after I download it and do a little editing from the beginning. But this will be up for people to view on the Tap Into website, South County pages from tomorrow through Election Day. So again, thank you very much for participating. I appreciate all of you who are watching at home, and God bless and have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.